Peace to the gods. Master Via here, bringing peace and light to the minds of you all. Today, I wanted to talk about one of the 5 sciences. Today, I will be talking about astrology. Yes, one of the first science is astrology. The first science is astrology because what's above is what's so below, which is astrology and biology. But astrology, what goes on in the cosmos goes down here. It's all the same thing. Okay, so I wanted to talk about astrology because not only it plays a big role out of knowing who you are. If you do not know your astrological programming, if you do not know your natal chart, if you are not getting to know your astrological energies, then how can you possibly get to know yourself? You're feeling all these things, you're being all of these things without knowing or having insight or information on what these things are. The reason why we study astrology is because the planet, astrology is the mechanics of consciousness. Astrology is the breakdown of different energies, different thought patterns, different aspects, and just a whole pool, an infinite pool of energies, right? That we all have in some way or some form. When we talk about the planets, the sun, the Mercury, the Pluto, talking about the sun placement, the sun represents your personality. So a lot of people identify with their sun sign, with your birthday, and that's, they think it's just their sun sign. Sun sign is just personality traits. But astrology gets so much more deeper than that, for the simple fact that you have 12 different placements, and we have, depending on who you are, all these different aspects within our placements, our houses, and our, it's not just your planet position, it's also the housing position. It's also where your aspects lie. And then when you really get into astrology, you can start looking at your family tree and then start seeing the level of growth in consciousness, are the similarities, are the inherited aspects that you have. The moon represents emotions. A lot of people identify with their sun sign, which is their personality traits, without not knowing their moon sign, their emotionals, the emotional aspects of who they are. Also Mercury represents communication and the process of information. It is very important to know your Mercury placement, just to know how you communicate, or to identify an aspect or a characteristic that's already written, to identify with that and to study that energy and to look more into that energy, or to even analyze where that energy has played out in your communication. It helps dramatically. Also Venus represents relationships, desires, and intentions. Most people need to look at their Venus placement. Excuse me, I am a Leo in the 5th house, okay? So I'm a person who needs to know my Venus placement, because having Leo in the 5th house can be very, I would say, it can be, let's just say a person with Venus Leo in the 5th house, it's important to know your placement, for the simple fact that you have very, very, very strong standards. I value myself a lot in relationships, a lot, okay? And Leo, it explains itself. Leo in the 5th house, that's Leo, okay? So, anybody who has a Venus Leo in the 5th house, you should definitely try looking at your Venus placement, because you're gonna have a lot of expectations, and a lot of these times, some people, if they don't know what Leo in the 5th house holds when it comes to relationships, then you can see if you don't know yourself or if you're not seeking this information, how you play out in your relationships and your desires and your intentions, it can be you can be unconscious on how you're using that for you. You also want to take consideration of other people. In relationships, I had to learn a lot that I couldn't just go based off of my feelings and what I wanted, Also, Mars represents the action and the sex drive. The sex drive is just, action, I guess, engagement, how we tend to go about our actions, how we move. Look at your Mars placement. My Mars is in Scorpio in the 7th house. So, with that being said, that's Scorpio and Libra. It's a little shaky, but then it's balanced. My Mars placement, like, I fuck with my Mars placement a little bit, and my actions, you can definitely tell how I'm a Scorpio in my action based on, I like to, I don't know how to explain it. For some reason in my mind, it's like, I like getting the job done, but I'm not going to tell everybody how I'm getting the job done and what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, it's going to equally be as important to me as it is to others, if that makes any type of sense. That is my Mars in the 7th house. Get to know your Mars placement. The Mars placement is cool. See how you actually move, if you are a Mars person that has Mars in the 4th house, Cancer, you may move based on emotion. These are insightful things to get to know yourself. Like, what Mars represents the action and how I move, or what is my Mars placement? This stuff is huge tools that we can use in our everyday life to ground ourselves with the situations that we occur when we look at ourselves. Oh my God, I love myself so much. Also, Jupiter is expansion. Jupiter is the teaching style. Jupiter is also connection to the source. So where you're leading, basically, I feel like every single person has this will, right? You can look at Jupiter as it being your will to expand, and just looking at how well you're able to grow and how well you're able to thrive with your energies and the characteristics that is internally and astrologically programmed within your reality. Jupiter shows you, your best parts of yourself, or where you can be expansive, or where your energies can lead you. Jupiter is a very, very cool placement, planetary position. You should definitely look at that. My Jupiter is definitely in the 12th house. That's cool. Yeah. And if you are not into astrology, you don't know exactly what that means. But my Jupiter is in the 12th house, so that's pretty cool to me. Saturn is restriction. Saturn is discipline. Saturn is the father. My Saturn is in the 1st house. It has to do with the self. Yeah. So of course, my reality shows it. My Saturn is in the 1st house. It has something to do with the self. Saturn would teach you where you are restricted in your life. Saturn would teach you, it's like, it's that fatherly love. It's going to give you exactly what you need. It's going to show you, like, okay, those hard hurdles that you feel internally, that is Saturn. learn your Saturn placement. And my Saturn placement has a lot to do with the self. In this lifetime, it is up to me to understand myself and to be confident within myself. My Saturn is about the self, okay? I love that too, and it makes just so much sense. And I bet you if you were to go to your natal chart and look at your Saturn placement and read your Saturn placement in that energy, you'd be like, wow, I do feel restricted in that specific area. It's so crazy. This is how you start loving yourself, was when you actually start to get to know yourself. Not just, if you're getting to know yourself mentally, that means astrologically you are starting to get to know yourself. Go to the cosmos to understand you, because what's above, so below. Astrology plays a whole role in your how you are wired astrologically, because it's energy. We are matter that makes up the matter. Okay, also Uranus represents the collective, the awakening, rebellion, innovative, and liberation. So morals and principles. Uranus is kind of like the morale or the principle. I see my humor coming out now. This is weird. What energy is that? I can find it in my chart. This is how we use it. What energy is this? It's okay, a third house, Gemini. Because sun and moon, Cancer in their third house. This is definitely my Gemini energy. Okay, yes, Uranus. So Uranus is basically like the deep, deep, deep soul of where your soul holds your morals and your principles. Just showing up for self and how, like, astrologically in your energies, you are able to see in Uranus, you are able to see your qualities as a person. You are able to see how mentally moral you are, how mentally controlled you are by wrong and right. Uranus has a lot to do with wrong and right. Yes, it represents the collective awakening and rebellion, innovation, and liberation. So the deep, deep higher self of you, that's Uranus. And whatever aspects and characteristics that plays out with all the different other planets there is, Uranus has a lot to do with, like, the grounding of your higher self. That's what I would say. In my opinion, that's where Uranus represents for me. Then also we have, by the way, my Uranus is Aquarius in the 10th house. Neptune. Also, Neptune represents the collective, spirituality, fantasy, and illusion. So, Neptune represents the spirituality. Neptune represents the energy behind the collective experience that you're experiencing. It says fantasy and illusion is because this is how our light can bend in our mind. Basically, Neptune is talking about how light can bend in our mind, how we perceive and receive things sometimes in our own mind. It can be illusion. I guess this is kind of the separation in our astrology a little. I'm not sure. This is just me going based off the facts of Neptune representing the collective spirituality and the fantasy and the illusion. That is what Neptune represents. And to me, in my opinion, it is basically showing you how light bends in your mind. So if you want to get to know how light specifically bends in your mind, go to your Neptune and see how you perceive things and how you look at things, I guess. And Pluto represents the collective transformation and regeneration. So basically, we all have this aspect with us where we can grow, we can change, we can transform. what energy do you have in Pluto when it comes to transformation and growth? Do you know? Do you have a Cancer energy when it comes to transforming? Are you emotional when it comes to transforming? Do you have a Capricorn energy when it comes to transforming? This is how planets are used. This is how we can use these planets to identify how we go about certain things in our life. We have different aspects and different characteristics that plays out in certain situations. Like around family and friends, I may be a Cancer, but around handling my responsibilities, I may be a Capricorn, playing out my Neptune energy or something like that. Like, we have to look at these things and see how our energies play out. This is why astrology is so huge, and that is just a little bitty piece of astrology. That is just me talking about and explaining how the planets help us identify with certain aspects and characteristics that we literally deal with on an everyday basis. We deal with relationships and periods. We encounter and give our energy off. I give my Cancer energy off when I'm being myself, being my personality. Like, and it's just like, what do you really know about the Cancer energy? A lot of people just say they're super soft and emotional, but it's so much more that plays into these signs. There's the water element, there's the air element, and there's the fire element, there's a mutable element, you can also look at the aspects of it being, like, there's so much in astrology, and this is not going to be my only video on astrology. I think this is my first video on astrology, so this is just a brief explanation on astrology, one of the 5 sciences. I love my chief so much. I'm grateful. I love myself. Peace to the gods. This video was longer than expected, but try to have it up as soon as possible. Peace, guys. Namaste.